up, but first, the Biden agenda. In his first 2 weeks in office, President Biden has signed 45 executive actions and orders, pushed through a BAFA $1.9 trillion stimulus plan, and has managed to cancel several key Trump policies on immigration, energy, and foreign policy, all seemingly in the name of unity. Joining us right now with reaction to the new administration and its policies is the former White House Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows. Mark, it's great to have you this morning. Welcome.
Good to be with you. Thanks, Maria.
Assess the new administration and its policies. What strikes you most?
Well, I think we see a Biden administration that's very active, but not on behalf of the American people. It's on behalf of special interests. We've seen it with all these executive orders. And not only are they prepared with executive orders that were probably written by special interest lobbyists, but they're going against the very heart of America. It's going against energy. It's going against our immigration policy. You're going to have Attorney General Ken Paxton up talking about how not only it affects Texas, but all of America. And yet we also see the Biden administration coupling up with Iran, getting applause from the foreign minister of Iran for actions that they're taking there. I can tell you it is not about America first. It's about America last. And we need to make sure that we fight back on behalf of the American people.
So how can you fight back? Can the Republicans do anything to stop this aggressive agenda? We have a graphic here that shows executive orders from President Biden versus other presidents, and it is obviously the most aggressive we've ever seen. 28 executive orders and an additional executive actions, putting the executive order number at 45 in just the first 2 weeks in office. Mark, can you stop this in any way?
Well, obviously, we've seen a temporary stay in Texas, but we need to be more aggressive on that front, fighting back with lawsuits, making sure that the American people are heard. One of the interesting things is there's a role for Congress, and that role is defined. And we have Joe Biden saying he wants to unify, but it's more of a Joe Biden go it alone kind of approach, and making sure, you know, it took 30 minutes for him to meet with Republicans in the Oval Office to decide that he wanted to do a stimulus by himself. But what we need to make sure is that we challenge it at every turn. We've got a number of Trump-appointed justices in office that need to uphold the rule of law and ultimately give this authority back to Congress where it belongs.
We're going to talk with Senator Ron Johnson in a few minutes, Mark, and he has been trying to do his own investigation, a query into who knew what when around the siege on our democracy, the January 6th Capitol breach. What can you tell us in terms of what you knew as the outgoing administration, what you knew in terms of the threat and what was done about it?
Well, Senator Johnson does a good job of trying to get to the bottom of it. And we know a couple of things. One is this impeachment process they're going through is unconstitutional. It's all designed for 9 House Democrats to do two things, to get political vengeance and have a viral moment. And yet what we're also seeing is that some of the things happened even before the infamous speech that everybody tries to allude to and hold this impeachment process. But we also know this. Help was offered multiple times, not just in January, but throughout the summer with the D.C. mayor saying that the president stood by willing to offer National Guard assistance, other assistance, and often, in fact, every time was rebuked and said, no, we can go it alone. And so they do need to get to the bottom of it, and hopefully we'll see that in the very near future.
So you say that the president had offered up Capitol Police, National Guard, even went to the Department of Defense.
Yeah, and so we also know that in January, but also throughout the summer, that the president was very vocal in making sure that we had plenty of National Guard, plenty of additional support, because he supports the rule of law, he supports our law enforcement, and offered additional help. Even in January, that was given. As many as 10,000 National Guard troops were told to be on the ready by the Secretary of Defense. That was a direct order from President Trump, and yet here's what we see is there's all kinds of blame going around, but yet not a whole lot of accountability. That accountability ultimately should be, and that's on Capitol Hill.
Well, what are you going to do in terms of the impeachment? Let's talk about that. It is set, a trial is set for February 9th. What can you tell us in terms of how this plays out?
Well, listen, we can tell you how it's going to play out because we've seen this already play out. This is all about a political theater. It's really about Democrats trying to once again make a political point. Listen, this whole impeachment is designed to remove someone from office. President Trump is a private citizen at this point, and yet what they can't stand it. They have to continue to go ahead and try to put forth some kind of narrative that scores political points. But we've seen it before. The American people are not going to have it. We've already had 45 senators say that this is unconstitutional, but it's more than that. It's a violation of due process. It's not what our founding fathers set up, and it sets a very bad precedent for future office holders.
So how will it look? Do you believe that the Democrats will call witnesses? I mean, from a practical standpoint, what is this going to look like?
You know, the question on witnesses will be generally decided here in the next 48 hours or so as it goes before the Senate. But generally speaking, that is something that should have already happened in the House. They should have called witnesses. They should have gathered evidence. But they were so impressed to try to get this done so that they could score a political point that they actually bypassed all of that in the House. That's where it's supposed to happen. And then they're supposed to hear that evidence in the Senate. Hopefully that's what we'll do. I'm optimistic that we'll find a bipartisan agreement that says, let's get this thing over with very quickly. Let's move on to things that the American people are concerned about, and hopefully will bring unity, whether it's help through a stimulus or actually putting people back to work on Main Street and focus on the real thing that matters to most Americans.
Speaker Pelosi was asked about witnesses, and, well, I want you to hear her answer, and then I want to get into some of the communications issues that we're talking about with regard to the Biden administration. Here's Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Watch.
I'm just curious, as far as the impeachment trial is concerned, Senator Graham said that if the Democrats call any witness, that they'll be prepared, the Republicans will be prepared to call in the FBI and, quote, tell us about people who pre-planned this attack and what happened with the security footprint at the Capitol. What's your response to that?
Your question is a waste of time.
Wow. Well, that shut it down, Mark. The question is a waste of time, the Speaker said.
Well, that's what Speaker Pelosi does when she can't answer a question. She says it's a waste of time because the answer would not be one that would be one that she would want to share with the American people. I can tell you that when we look at Washington, D.C., the Capitol Police, many of them are my friends. I can tell you they do a tremendous job, but they need to be empowered to do that job. And there were plenty of assets there to assist them in their efforts. And some of those decisions weren't made appropriately, in my opinion. And those decisions did not come from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. It came from the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue.
Wow. That's pretty significant. We'll talk more about that coming up to find out what Senator Johnson has uncovered. Real quick, what about this $1.9 trillion stimulus package? I know you worked so hard with Stephen Mnuchin and the Democrats to try to come up with continued aid. It looks like we will see a $1.9 trillion package. Your thoughts?
Listen, the President Trump did 3 bipartisan deals. This is going to be a partisan deal that has all kinds of pork for local municipalities and states. It's all the special interest things that they've actually fought back on. Listen, America needs help. There is some bipartisan support there. This partisan way is not the answer, though.
All right, we will leave it there. Mark, it's good to see you this morning. Come back soon. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.